What up, y'all? Shawn the Shred, and we are in my Chevy HHR right now, and I've been having some issues with it kind of kicking hard when it shifts. So I'm about to replace the intake and exhaust camshaft solenoids. They are the issue when it starts to shift hard. I'm gonna go ahead and take it apart and get those replaced. Plain Jane, no mods to the motor, just looks and suspension. So we need to pull the intake off, and then that way we can actually get to the valve cover that's underneath, because the solenoids are mounted in the side of that valve cover that run parallel to the cams. And there's two solenoids on this side, one for the intake, one for the exhaust. They've got a small bolt that holds them in, or a screw. You take it out, pull them out, put some oil on the new ones, drop them in, bolt it down, put everything back. It's really not difficult. If I remember correctly, the hardest thing is probably getting the air cleaner off. So if you're comfortable with that, you should be just fine to handle this. Okay, so if I remember correctly, there's a hose clamp. Yep, one right here on the back side of this woolly worm, which mine ripped, so I had to do some black tape on it. So be very careful with that, it will come apart on you. Additionally, under here you've got this one to take off, and then you've got this mass airflow sensor plug right there. There you go. If I block out the light, you can see it a little bit better. It's got a push on top right here. Push this guy down, and then the plug comes off. So let's see if I can work my hand in there while you're. So yeah, push in right here on top, just and then pull it straight back, and it'll come right off. That'll expose that. Just go ahead and put that plug out of the way. And then I'm going to take off those clamps real quick and see where that leaves me. Alright, so I went ahead and pulled the woolly worm out. It attaches down here in the fender where you can just grab it and pull it off. But again, be extra cautious. You can see I've had to tape it up here, I taped it up here, and it ripped apart again while I was taking it out. And so yeah, I'm probably just going to end up having to buy a new one, or maybe just upgrade, because this one even kinks right here really bad and cuts literally the space down almost like in half. So might just have to upgrade to a different intake on that. Okay, so I went ahead and loosened this clamp here and basically pulled this guy off to where it's no longer attached on there. Other than that, it just rests on your valve cover. There are a couple of spots back here that you have to pull off. If you put your hand back there, you can feel where it connects, and it's literally just a bolt that pushes up into this. So just basically grab it and pull it up and away. See if I can do that real quick. Alright, so and what you're doing is you're pulling the rubber grommets right here off of these bolts back here, and before I put that back together, I will put some grease inside these grommets, and that way they're easier to pull off. Other than that, this one is just one that rests on the valve cover, and this one just fits over. It doesn't actually have anything that holds it down right there. I think it's supposed to have a rubber grommet in there, but mine has deteriorated a little bit, so probably need to get a new one of those for the front. But that's how you get it off. And then you've got your giant intake box, which is overkill and stupid for the HHR, but you have to take these bolts out, or these screws out right here, if you need to change your filter. So you'll pull those out and basically pull that apart, replace the filter. I'm not doing that. I'm just going to replace the solenoids, which are these guys right here. So I will go ahead and do that. There is a little piece right here that's kind of like a safety piece. These need to be pulled up, but be gentle so that way you don't break them. But those need to be pulled up before you can release the plugs. Excuse the super dirty motor. You don't ever get to see this part since it's covered up by the air intake. So if you change out your intake to like a short ram or something that comes over here, then you see much more of it. And then, you know, it may be worth actually doing some cool shit. You could color your valve cover, blah, 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 wire looms, whatever. Anyway, back to this. So I went ahead and pulled those off. Like I said, these are your solenoids. You can see down in there, it's got two little bolts. So you got to take those out, one for each. And basically they are specific to each side. One's labeled as your intake, one's labeled as your exhaust. And then of course they're different colors. So your new one the same way. And you want to put them back in the same position. While you're doing that, it helps to tuck these down under the wire loom right there, so that way they don't get in your way. But it's real quick, just those couple little bolts. So I'm going to grab that real quick. I believe it's 10 millimeter. So went ahead and grabbed this 10 millimeter deep socket. And you may want to check and see how dusty it is in there. If there's a bunch of dust and debris down in there, I definitely recommend sucking it out with a vacuum or blowing it out with compressed air first. Because once you open up these openings, there will be access to the top of your cams and your head. So you don't want all that crap to get down in there. Best if you can clean it out to your best ability. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the shop vac real quick and suck that out. After vacuuming it out, I went ahead and blew some air in there as well. These are my new replacements. They are color coded as well. So your black will obviously go back in and replace your black, and the gray will go in to your intake side for the gray. It does have super fine mesh screens on the bottom, and apparently this mesh, the superfine mesh, is what eventually causes them to go bad and get clogged up from oil, debris, and whatnot that it filters out. So that's why you're probably having to do this if you own an HHR or maybe a Cobalt, possibly a Malibu. I'm not sure. There's probably several other Chevys that run this same motor and have this issue. So one way to avoid it is to be absolutely scrupulous about your oil changes and make sure you're getting them done frequently enough that your oil doesn't get dirty. Unfortunately for me, this car is not driven frequently, so sometimes it'll sit over the winter or over the summer sometimes even, and then you know, I'll start it up and these get clogged up and go bad pretty quickly. So what you want to do is when you pull those out, you want to put these in by putting just a little bit of oil around the O-rings right here, and then just you push them down and seat them in place, and you can feel when they seat and push down in place. So let's go ahead and cut these open. I'll get those pulled out, and then that way we can go ahead and get the replacement done. They shouldn't be in there very tight. You should be able to just take them loose super easily. The torque on them is, I don't know for sure exactly what it is, but it's definitely super light. You can do it with just one hand. And they shouldn't go back in super duper tight either. If you over tighten them, it may lead to issues. So I would just put them in, you know, till they're tightened down, and then roughly about a quarter of a turn, and you should be good. See if I can get an aid real quick. There we go. There we go. You can also put an open end wrench around the end right there. Just put it on your valve cover and pop up like that. That will give you, you know, like that, where it just pops it up and out. That's probably the easiest way to do it. Then you can pull them out, and in doing so, you may drip some oil out. So if so, I would say hang it over it just for a second. That way you don't drag oil across everything. Set that there for a second. guess that's the gray one. I'm gonna go ahead and grab the gray one. The set that I bought does come with new bolts and everything, so you don't have to reuse the bolts. So once you pull it out, again, that's the O-ring you want to put some oil on. Like I said, comes with its own bolts, everything. So what I usually do is if you have fresh oil sitting nearby, you can take fresh oil, or just grab a little bit off of there, you know, just on your fingertip, and just rub it around the O-ring on the new one that's going in. Alright, and as I take one out, I'm going to put the next one right back in. And just like that, set it down in there. Again with the drippity drip drip. Alright, once you got those two pushed down in there, then pretty much you just have to tighten it back up and then reconnect it. Which, these are pretty long little bolts, so let me start these by hand. Getting about tight, and then about a quarter of a turn. And then it's just a matter of putting the air box back on. Like I said, I'm gonna grab some grease real quick to put on those, and then that way I can go ahead and put that back on there a little easier. And then you attach this one, tighten down this, replug your MAF sensor connector back up, then run your woolly worm from this hole right here back up to the back of the air box and tighten that hose clamp, and that's it. But before you do that, I would recommend starting it and just confirming that nothing is amiss and that it doesn't suddenly start leaking a bunch of oil into that space. So I'm going to clean off my little area right now, and then I'll go ahead and start it and do that. Okay, so I've gone ahead and cleaned out that space in there a little bit. Just basically took a paper towel or a shop towel on the end of like a coffee stirrer or chopstick. Just something small that you can put in there and kind of work around into the areas. Not trying to clean it out so that it's, you know, pretty. Just want to be able to see if oil starts leaking from right there. I want to be able to see it clearly and easily. So I'm going to start it up real quick and make sure everything's good. Alright, let's start her up, let her run for a minute. Now, it might sound a little funny on startup like mine just did. Remember that your mass airflow sensor is currently unplugged if you're trying it out, just to test to make sure it's not leaking. So here. Don't see anything to be of any concern up in there. Not leaking at the moment. Alright, so since I don't see anything coming out of there, there's no oil coming up or anything, it's not doing anything odd. Seems like it's going to be fine to me, so I'm going to go ahead and shut it off, put the air intake back on. Okay, so I had to bust out the tape to go ahead and fix my woolly worm. No, it's not black electrical tape because the black electrical tape failed a couple of times. So this is actually T-Rex tape, and it's supposed to hold really well, so that should do me just fine until I am able to get a replacement intake on there. This stuff is exceptionally strong adhesive on it, so it should be good. Went ahead and did the top as well, where it's kind of crushing and kinking when you plug it into the body. So I went ahead and got that set up, and you want it to go back in like this, so that way it connects. So this piece needs to go in there. I'm gonna go ahead and put that in there real quick, and then I can get the rest of the intake on. So while attempting to put that in, it broke again, and this time just up from where I taped it. So now I got to tape the whole damn thing up to here. I'm telling you, this woolly worm is literally the dumbest engineering idea. I don't know who thought, hey, let's take a piece of fucking material and wrap it around in a spiral so that it overlaps and it falls apart super easily. But literally every one of these will peel off, and it's just a piece of material that spirals. It's the dumbest thing ever. If you have the opportunity to replace this, I greatly suggest it. I mean, hell, I think a dryer vent would work better than this thing does. It's just the dumbest engineering. What the hell, GM? Jeez. My woolly worm did not want to behave and kept ripping, so now I have completely covered the whole thing in tape. That way it holds to itself, and yeah. Sometimes my genius surprises even me. Alright, so like I said, I'm just going to go ahead and put a little bit of grease on here. Both of them. And it's probably wise to clean those off first, which I did. But just, I didn't mention it, so yeah, clean those and then grease them. And then, I'll go ahead and put a little bit on there as well. Yoink. Okay, so that should make those way easier to get on and off. Alright, let's put it back on. Okay, so when you set it down on there, the first thing that I usually do is grab that hose and plug it onto the air box. And then while you're back there, you can feel for the spot to plug that down. And then same thing over here, you can feel and see that it, yeah, that one's already in, so good there. Lines up with the oil cap. Now we just got to put this one on, reconnect the mass airflow sensor, and then tighten down both of those clamps. Alright. Tug, that's not going anywhere. Alright. Then you take your mass airflow sensor and reconnect the connector. Remember that the push tab to release it goes up, so you can feel around under there and find the connection. Push it on there till it clicks. Make sure it doesn't pull back off. And then we just need to tighten that one right there. And you can do this obviously with a socket, but apparently I'm a glutton for punishment, so I choose to use a flathead. Which I don't know why. Like I said, punishment, I guess. Oh, nice. Hi, can you see me down there? Phone, you just fell on my steering rack, and I'm not sure I can reach you. Shit. This'll be fun. I was able to retrieve my phone. Now I've got that tightened on there. Again, give it a tug. It does not come off, doesn't move around, so should be good to go. And that is it. That's how you replace intake and exhaust cam position sensor solenoids on the Ecotec. This is a 2.4 liter, should be for the 2.2, 2.4 liter both, I believe. And yeah, that's the process on the HHR, so hopefully that helped somebody.